Live?
We're good.
Okay, welcome everybody. I'd like to call this Public Utilities Commission meeting to order for Monday, January 6, 2020, the new year. Please rise, join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. First order of business, public input. I don't think we have any public here. We have people on the agenda. Correspondence, is there anything other than, nothing, no correspondence? All right, next order of business is approval of meeting minutes from the regular meeting of December 16th, 2019. Entertain a motion?
So. Second.
Okay, are there any corrections, comments? And hearing none, let's see, Mr. Straighten is temporarily absent, called away on business, but we still have a quorum at the table, so I will.
I'll vote.
Okay, you're voting, okay, those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And there are two abstentions, me and Dino. That motion carries. Before we move on, I'm gonna make a motion. There was one thing that the utility director asked me to add under new business. I'll make a motion to add to the agenda Chestnut Ridge Water Storage Tank, consideration of project and forwarding to Board of Selectmen. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, any discussion? Hearing none, those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, okay, that carries. So now we'll move on to financials.
Invoices.
Invoices, and financial report will be, the full financial report will be the middle of the month. So I'll put a motion on the floor for your consideration to approve invoices for PUC approval dated regular meeting January 6, 2020. There are 4 items totaling $18,080.11. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, Paul has seconded. Would you take a look at that for a few minutes? All right, any questions? All right. Hearing none, I'll try your minds. Those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, that carries. Director's report. Tom?
Okay, the first item I have is we discussed at the last meeting the QBS process for selecting engineering consulting for some engineering design and planning related to our DWSRF projects. As I explained last time, discussions with the health department, the projects that we have approved are all, the dollars are for construction. In order to get any of the engineering work, either design or construction admin, approved and to be part of the DWSRF funding, their requirement is to go through the QBS process. So last meeting, we agreed to go forward with that. So what I included was just a proposed schedule, and I'm looking to get started on that pretty much right now. And I laid out the steps. Matt, it would be this item here.
Yeah, I'm just looking ahead.
Yep. Oh, I'm sorry.
That's all right.
So basically, I just wanted to give an update on the schedule that I put together and some of the tasks that are involved. My plan is to run the ad in tomorrow's paper, and I'm going to reach out to at least 4 consultants that I'm aware of that would be qualified to do this work. If we get any others through the ad, then so be it.
Mm-hmm.
But then we need to basically pick our top 3 and then go forward from there and pick our top consultant.
Okay. Do you need a vote on that? That's already done, right?
We did that last time,
Yeah.
so I was just providing some additional information.
Okay. All right.
That was item 1 there. Item number 2 was the Hickok Ave. After we looked at that passway, I did indicate back to the property owner as to the status, and the passway at this point is only for passing and repassing. And per Marty, if they needed to or wanted to do anything with any utilities, they'd have to basically amend that easement and get the property owners to sign off on that. So I sent them an email, haven't heard back. At least now they've been informed.
Okay. All right.
And my last item, I was asked at the last meeting to just compare on the two most recent projects, Briar Cliff Pump Station and the 2018 water mains that we're basically now just coming to an end with, what the actual dollar spent was versus what the bid amounts were. So on Briar Cliff, I had the final cost was $822,510, and the bid amount was $833,336. For the project just completed, the water mains for 2018, looks like the final cost is, we're still working out their final payment request here, but at this point I have it as $856,934 versus their bid amount of $939,460. So typically, we had some items in there to cover rock removal, additional excavation, and so on. Maybe all the traffic control didn't get used that was originally estimated. So there's usually items on there that we don't necessarily, if you're lucky, don't necessarily, utilize.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, good. What was that last one, that last project? I was-
It was the 2018 water main replacements.
Okay. All right, well, that's good news.
Tom, just for my edification.
Sure.
here, Briar Cliff generator, you were supposed to go to DUPC on all that, or?
DPH.
DPH. okay.
Yeah, I've
Any
been,
progress from them?
I have no progress yet, they just recently approved the next year's worth of financing, which I reported on. At this point, I've got to get them, like now, a formal application. I plan on doing that here in the next couple of weeks.
Okay.
We've been kind of busy with some stuff going on
Yeah, we're
around.
gonna, that's both the generators for Eureka and that.
Correct,
Briar Cliff.
they're both included, so they've got a special, like, generator category.
Yeah.
And we've got our funding included in their program.
All right.
Okay.
And that's what I have.
All right. Any
Hey,
other-
man,
Yeah,
I have
go
a
ahead.
question. We were dealing with Danbury with our sewer, this we sent our sewer to Danbury. I
Yep.
see where they're gonna reclaim the grease and stuff to generate fuel. They're gonna build a new building. Are we gonna get a hand of that? Do we have to pay into that or what?
I saw a headline,
No, they're gonna take the grease that's being delivered to the plant and they're gonna turn it into fuel and use it in their vehicles. They're
Oh,
gonna
the
put a new-
grease, yes.
They're gonna put a new building up.
Okay,
Do we get any part of that or what happens? Do we have any?
I don't know.
They've not said a word to us
Right.
No,
about
but I'm
that.
just wondering.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, we're not paying for them to.
Well, yeah,
Fuel oil.
I think if it's gonna be part of the construction project that we're involved with, then I think that discussion is warranted.
Yep,
Because it just had a separate building to handle this.
yeah.
It didn't say, to get rid of the stuff that's in
Yeah,
the
they-
discharge waste. It was
they-
strictly to do with the grease to generate fuel for
Right.
their fleet for the year.
Right, I'm assuming that's a separate project that they're gonna be doing on their own, and then they would obviously reap that benefit.
I was just wondering, that's all.
Yeah, we'll find out.
All right.
Can we sell them our grease that we're sending to them?
Well, we shouldn't be sending them any
No,
grease.
that's true, that's true. Well, they'll charge us for it.
But the renderers have to
Thank you,
bring
Pete.
it
That's a-
somewhere, and
yeah,
now
that's a good
Danbury's
question.
plant will be an option.
Oh, yeah.
Although I think they are bringing some of their stuff there anyway.
I don't know.
Thanks, Pete, that's a good question. I was out of town, I didn't see that. So, all right, anything else, Tom? That's it?
That's it for my director's report.
Okay, well, moving on to new business, the new item, Chestnut Ridge Water Storage Tank, that's your item too, so
Yep.
take it away.
Okay, basically, we got the bids back. I submitted the bid results. We basically got, I guess the project was big enough where, on some of these tank jobs, if the cost of the tank exceeds a certain percentage of the total job, then evidently the tank vendors become the general contractors. That was the case here, whereas Eureka, I think it was the opposite. And the tank contractor was a sub to a general contractor. So, long story short, we got two bids. Low bidder was DN Tanks, $1,008,000, $1,817,681, and preload was $2,124,900.
What was that number again?
The second bid from preload was $2,124,900.
Oh, okay.
And what, I'm sorry, what was D-Tank?
The low bidder, apparent low bidder's DN Tanks, and their number was $1,817,681.
And have you examined the qualifications and?
Yes, I did ask Wright Pierce to go through that since they were a big part of this
Okay.
project. And I did include a letter from them with their recommendation for an award to DN Tanks.
Okay.
So that's where we stand with the construction estimate, or now, bid number. And now to advance the project through our process, we've got to get basically town approval.
Yeah.
So the process, I don't know if I included my schedule, but the process would be for PUC to accept the project and pass it on to Board of Selectmen. And then Board of Selectmen would approve and pass on to Board of Finance. Board of Selectmen would, I believe, be the party that also then establishes the special town meeting date, as well as the referendum date.
Correct?
So that's the process we're in. So I think, I have it on the agenda for a motion to accept, I guess, the Chestnut Ridge Water Tank Project. And what I have is the total dollar amount for the funding to be, and I'll explain after I give you the full number.
Okay.
To be $2,239,681, which includes $1,817,681 for construction, $91,000 for a contingency, which is 5%. I'm including the cost of the land, $198,000. $125,000 for professional services, which would include construction administration, and $8,000 for legal fees. So that would be the number we're looking to get approved.
Okay. Now, there's, parts of this are eligible for low-interest loans and/or grants too, correct?
That full amount is what we would be expecting and hoping that will get approved through DPH.
Okay, the full amount?
That full amount.
Okay, all right.
And at this point, I believe if there's still grant money available, up to 25%, and the remainder as the low-interest loan through the
Okay.
DWSRF program.
Okay. All right. Well, I will put a motion on the floor to approve and award the Chestnut Ridge Tank Project to DN Tanks in an amount not to exceed $2,239,681.
No,
Second for
No.
discussion.
their bid is only 1817,681.
Okay.
This is everything. I think
Right.
you should do it in
Okay, all
two
right.
motions.
Okay, so I'll make a motion, let me withdraw that. I'll make a motion to award to DN Tanks the project in an amount not to exceed $1,817,681.
A second for discussion on it.
Okay. Go right ahead.
Isn't that where the contingency should be in? Or how do you work that?
Well, that's their bid number. The contingency is part of the DWSRF funding we'd
So it
be
would
asking for.
It would be a change order to that, so I just,
Well, it sounds
Okay,
to me it's
all right.
almost.
Well,
We're awarding that bid number, right?
Yeah.
If we come across a
contingency
change order, we deal with it at that
Yeah,
time.
okay.
Yeah.
But we get DPH
Right.
to approve the additional
Right.
$91,000.
okay.
Does DN Tank already have a contingency in their estimate?
I,
Their bid?
They don't show it on the chart.
yeah, they bid on the items that were listed on the bid spec. So they've put in whatever contingency profit, they've got their whole number. set
You
up.
haven't seen the breakdown.
I've seen the breakdown, but there's not an item for contingency.
Right.
So that's the bare bone, that's their bare bone.
Yeah,
Bare bone, there's no contingency.
that's their bid on the project, and
Right.
any contingency would be above and beyond that, so
Right.
the contingency's in that other money that
The
they're
packet,
asking for.
the info that I sent in the packet, which Marty, you just passed over there were seven separate line items.
Mhm.
And the total comes out to what their total was that I referenced.
Now, that includes the engineer inspection on the job?
Not the 1,817,000.
No, the other though. How
The
many
other,
times- How many inspections did they do?
I have an estimate for 125,000. I don't have all of that worked out yet in
They
terms of
haven't
how
broke that
many.
down yet?
Sorry?
They haven't broke that down?
Not as of yet, no. So it's probably minimum weekly inspections. I'm not exactly sure, but that's the number they gave me an estimate on, so that's the number I'm going forward with. We'll obviously come up with a professional services agreement, which
We're
then
gonna
will,
have to know that.
which will spell out exactly, but it won't exceed the 125. I'm just looking for the
I understand it.
full number at this
Right,
point.
Yeah, to get the okay.
Okay,
Just a quick question, didn't we already purchase that land?
Yeah, but he's talking about why not, if you can get reimbursed from the
Okay,
state,
okay,
why not
got
get
it.
reimbursed from the state?
Correct.
That's the only reason.
And I don't know even at this point if they'll accept the full
Yeah,
198.
probably not.
But we'll ask for it, and then at least if we go to the referendum with that full number, if it comes in less, then we've covered ourselves.
Okay.
okay, so we
What do we pay for Eureka? You remember, Rich?
that was like 2.6 million.
Yeah, there was a lot of extra legal fees.
Yeah, I remember.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, it's
That one took forever.
No.
probably close to 3 overall,
A little more than 3.
more than
I
3.
think it was 3.2, somewhere in that range.
3.2.
And you didn't have to buy the land either, you already
Yeah.
owned it.
But we had a $600,000 grant on it,
Right,
the original grant.
right.
And that included like the year's worth of getting to that point? Was that the total number, or was that just the construction number?
More than a year.
3.2? It took a while to get that together.
Okay.
Yeah, so it wasn't a year or anything like that. 600,000 came out right away,
Right.
and then we thought it was gonna be doubled when they doubled the size of the project, and they had to move everything back and everything else, all the legal fees and everything else. But, yeah, it wound up going up somewhere close to 6.2, 3.2.
Oh, 3.2 million.
3.2, what did I said 6 before? No.
No,
No,
you
I
said
said
3.2 earlier.
2.6, that's what that's what I thought
I
that
think it's
said.
3.2.
Okay, so
I
I
mean, if you
think,
need an exact number, I can get it for you.
No, I'm just curious.
Probably
It's
the
in that
tank was
range.
2.2.
I was gonna say,
But all the legal fees and everything else that for the,
yeah, the engineer, okay.
I think it was originally approved at 1.9.
Yeah.
And then with all the stalling and the years that went by, it eventually ended up being a lot more.
Mhm.
So, too bad.
Okay.
Okay, so we have a motion on the floor to award the contract to DN Tanks in the amount of 1.817681 million, forward to Board of Selectmen for their approval and review.
I'm sorry, but I think,
Marty, do we need to put subject to approval of town meeting and referendum?
Well, yeah, I was
Tomorrow,
just
I
gonna
think we
suggest
do.
that, but.
Yep.
I think the selectmen do that, right?
Well, what has to happen is, it's gotta be approved by the selectmen. If the
Yeah.
selectmen don't approve it, then it's dead in the water, so.
Yeah, so I think
So I think you get away with
you're
this.
right, tomorrow night we'll make the motion,
Well-
subject to approval of.
Well,
Yeah, I think it's 6 of one, half dozen of the- You can do it here, you can do it there tomorrow, you know, at the next meeting, at the Board of Selectmen, I think. As long as it's in there someplace, because you don't wanna give them the idea that if you don't get it approved by town meeting, you know, you still gotta pay them, you know, so. Doesn't make any difference, you just have to remember tomorrow to make sure it's subject to, approved by the Board of Selectmen, subject to finance approval and also, town meeting. Well, it's not a town meeting, it's gonna be a referendum.
Yeah. Well, we have to have both, right?
Yeah. well,
Adjourn to a referendum?
Yes.
Yeah, okay,
okay.
right. Okay, so we have a motion on the floor to approve that award to DN Tank. Those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. That carries. How's the best way to phrase the second part? Should we just vote on the additional expenses separately, or just as a,
I would just put that as an entire number,
okay,
which includes everything, including the bid by D&N Tanks, the
okay,
contingency fund, everything. Because
Alright.
that's what you're gonna present to the Board of Finance, the whole
Right.
amount.
The way I worded it was, I think, how the Briarcliff project was done, where you earmarked the contingency, the legal, so that's how I structured it here.
So that's what the Board of Finance is gonna ask for.
okay. All right, then I'm gonna put a motion on the floor that we, Public Utilities Commission approves and forwards to Board of Selectmen for its consideration, the total project cost for Chestnut Ridge in the amount not to exceed $2,239,681, which includes $1,817,681 for the cost, construction cost of the tank, $91,000 for contingency, $198,000 in land acquisition, $125,000 for professional services, and $8,000 for legal fees.
Second.
Okay. Any other comments? Hearing none, those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, that carries. All right, so we'll pick this up again tomorrow night. Old business. Tom, you wanna?
Yeah, I asked Bob Tedeschi from Weston and Sampson to come in, give us an update on basically our two current projects, the sanitary sewer evaluation survey for sub-area 14, and also an update on the sanitary sewer rehabilitation project for sub-areas 9, 12, and 15, phase 1. Bob?
Sure. Yeah, Bob Tedeschi, Weston Sampson. So we started the infiltration inflow analysis with a town-wide study, where the results of that, we prioritized sub-area by sub-area the findings, and we developed a capital improvement plan that listed in a prioritized fashion, investigating a sub-area, designing the rehabilitation to the sub-area, and then constructing and doing the rehab work. We did the analysis for sub-areas 9, 12, and 15, and that was an SSES report that was approved by DEP. We took the findings of that report and designed the cost-effective rehab, CIPP lining management rehab. We issued a construction project. We call that phase 1, and we received bids about a month ago. I think that may have been discussed at a previous meeting. National Waterman was the low bidder, and they were in the amount of $249,000. We had 5 bidders, and they all came within budget, actually below budget. So we're the next step on the 9, 12, and 15 rehab is to enter into agreement with the apparent low bidder and move forward with construction. So we also completed the SSES study for sub-area 14, which was the next sub-area down. We completed that. We submitted the report for review to staff. They're currently reviewing, and I gave a one-page synopsis of that report. The first page looks like this. This should all be in your packet. And I just boiled down the report into one piece of paper. Basically, there's 4 tables on that first page. The first page tells you what we evaluated in sub-area 14. We looked at, we did manhole inspections. We did 222 manhole inspections. We did flow isolation inspections, and we did CCTV inspection. And flow isolation meaning we, at night, we looked at the pipelines, we measured the flow, each segment, to see what was flowing in each segment when there should be no flow. And CCTV, that's closed circuit TV, where we cleaned and televised the lines with the goal of looking for leaks, basically infiltration. We found sources of infiltration in all 3 types of inspections. Those numbers are listed on the far right. And then we looked at the on a segment, pipe segment by segment basis, manhole to manhole. So the second table is pipelines. The first row is, are the pipelines that we found to be cost-effective to rehabilitate. We found 112,000 gallons per day of infiltration, which is 50% of what we actually found. I think we talked about that the last time I was talking about this. That's a rule of thumb where whatever you find for infiltration, you can remove 50% of it, because you don't really always get rid of all of it. We had a construction cost estimate of about 464,000, and that's compared to a transportation and treatment cost, 20-year transportation and treatment cost that, you know, theoretically that what you would pay if you left the leak in place. We also found non-excessive items of work to be completed, 6,000 gallons per day, costing $236,000 to fix. Those are not cost effective, but should be done because they have structural deficiencies in nature that should be addressed. So that's pipelines. Similarly with manholes, we found leaks in manholes. The first row, we found 16,000 gallons per day that's removable with a cost of $84,900. And then there was minor amounts of infiltration and smaller dollar values to repair different manholes in sub-area 14. One of the big things we found in sub-area 14 was on Plum Trees Road. We talked about this last time. There was a significant amount of infiltration just upstream of the Plum Trees Road pump station. So significant that we moved it into the design and rehab. So it is in phase 1 now. We want to get rid of it. That alone accounted for, we found 60,000 gallons a day in those 3 pipe segments. So if we can get rid of 30,000 gallons per day, that's going to happen in this coming months. The bottom line for sub-area 14, we found excessive and value effective recommended work to be done $750,000, and non-excessive meaning it should be done, but it's not guaranteed to it's not to remove infiltration. It's because it just needs to be done. There's things that are broken that are not necessarily leaking. That's the bottom table. So the results of this study, about $1.1 million worth of rehab. The details of that are in the back. That 1.1, if you want to go, it's the first row, the first table on the back sheet. There's CIPP, that's secured in place piping. There's about 8,100 feet of pipelining, and there's cleaning, and there's testing and sealing. There's other types of rehab that total to 464. And then the manhole repairs, just the numbers from the first page, and then the bottom table is the non-excessive things that should be done. So 750 to 310, 360. In the figure that it's graphic, it's hard to read, but just look at the colors. The green is no work to be done. Yellow is further investigation. There's some segments that couldn't be, they weren't evaluated for various reasons. The red basically is work that's cost effective. That's that $750,000. That's that table. And then the orange and the blue are structural rehab. Blue meaning there's no infiltration associated with it, and orange there's some. Still needs to be done, but it's not being done again for infiltration. So that's a summary of the SSES. The next step. Well, remember last time, or one of the last times I was here, we had that CIPP table that we were going down the list, and we said eventually we would stop because it would be not cost effective. We're suggesting now. We've done 9, 12, and 15 as one project. We've done 14 now. The next one will be sub-area 13. But we've identified enough construction projects, so it's maybe prudent now to fix those before moving on to investigating more. So we're recommending pausing the investigation of 13 until we catch up on fixing the things we found. So the next step would be to move forward with phase 1 with National Water Main and get that done.
Mhm.
Any
Tom, is
questions?
any part of this applicable to grants or loans?
Well, on the sewer side, the Clean Water Fund,
Yeah.
the construction money, is tending to just go to the sewage
Water.
treatment plant upgrades.
Yeah.
The state has several, including Danbury's, and there's probably, what, is there 4 others out to bid right now?
There's very low probability of getting, grant, I don't think you can get any,
Right.
but you could get loan money. And the reason the analysis is done this way, the 750,000 would be eligible for Clean Water Fund
Okay.
if there was funds available.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Yeah.
In talking to
Yeah.
the state, there's really no funding available, and what they have, they're putting into the treatment plants.
Okay.
But I'll stay in touch with them up in Hartford and always inquire if there's any monies available for pipelining, because that
Okay.
seems to be the bulk of what work we're gonna need to do.
And I would imagine this has to go out to bid per the usual process?
Future, yes,
Yes.
yes. So basically, when they studied 9, 12, and 15, we came up with this project that now we have put out to bid.
Yeah.
And we included the Plum Trees Road, which is from sub-area 14, into that.
Okay,
So there's still additional work we can do from the 9, 12, and 15.
yeah,
So basically, with the additional work we can do in 9, 12, and 15 now, plus this work in 14, we probably have a few years' worth of catching up to do here.
I was gonna say, the scary thing about this is there's a lot of red lines on this thing.
Yeah.
And this one little tiny part here that looks like it's about 1.5 inches long, it says phase 1, is $1,000,001. So
Oh, no,
there's a
no,
lot of
No,
money.
no, no, that's
So
in,
that's, that red line there, that got moved to phase 1.
Oh, that got moved to phase
Yeah,
1.
that's,
Oh, I thought that
so
was,
that's in the current
Oh, that's-
contract.
correct.
Yes.
that's much better, thank you.
Yeah.
That's the work in 14 that we moved into
Okay.
9, 12, and 15 based on the amount of infiltration we saw.
Okay, all right, that's better.
The question I have, Plum Trees Heights, do we own them sewer lines, or is that owned by the association?
I believe the association,
So the repairs would be picked up by them? Okay,
yeah.
Have we approached them?
no.
I don't know that it's ever been looked at over the years. This is the first go-around that we've kind of done with
But
this.
have we contacted them?
At this point, no, not yet.
I think it'd be a pretty good idea to contact them.
We'll do.
Marty, I know they own their own water lines, but do they own the sewer lines too, or do
Who's
we?
this again now?
Plum Tree Heights.
That was done by Jim Iolo
Yeah, I know. I actually worked on
in
that.
English.
I'm not sure. I don't know if they own them or
'Cause they put that pump station up there.
not. It's on the other side.
Kelly, you know.
Yeah,
If I may, there was an issue there with the generator when we had that,
Right.
about 4 or 5 years ago.
Right.
And they basically, they had to install a generator and maintain it for that one pump station down and back. I think that's the end of phase of Plum Trees 2.
Right.
Because they had to do somewhat of a pump-up system in there. They never had a generator, they put one in. We were told by the state, by the health department, that because the sewage was ours, we had to, if they weren't gonna pick it up, we were gonna be held obligated to put in the generator. They put in the generator, they maintain it, they have their own company to come in and maintain the pump system there. But
Okay.
just by them saying that, they own it, but if they don't do what they're supposed to do, then we have to step in.
Well, I think somebody's gotta approach them and
Yeah.
say, hey, you've got problems.
Yep. And we could share the
Kelly's good at
CCTV
having
results.
conversations like that.
What's that?
Well,
I
it's
said
cost
Kelly's
of
good at
them.
having conversations like that, right? Just kidding.
Yeah,
All right.
or we put a meter in down the bottom and charge them for all the infiltration that's going into the system.
That's I think that's the problem you have when it's private. Like we said, we should own it and maintain it and go after them, you know what I'm saying? Eliminates all this issue that we have, because this is an issue now with them.
And I don't know off the top of my head, but I'll assume there's probably other condo developments that might be in a similar situation.
Are there separate meters for each unit?
Yes.
Yeah.
And
Separate meters for each
as well
unit,
as
yeah.
the other one on the other side of the hill, Kingswood.
Kingswood.
They own that too. Actually, the pump station for Kingswood, they maintain
Right.
and they own.
That I remember.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So where are we with the current,
Contract?
Contract with National Water Main, National Water Main, is that?
Yes.
National Water Main Cleaning Company.
Cleaning company. So, we awarded that?
I would like to get that awarded. Marty had a couple of comments on the agreement. I made those couple of adjustments on the agreement page. I think Bob circled back to them with respect to their address.
They're incorporated in New Jersey.
Yeah, that.
Their offices is in Canton and Rocky Hill and others.
Rocky Hill, Connecticut,
They have an office in Rocky Hill, Connecticut, Canton, Massachusetts.
because the contract said Canton, Massachusetts. That's why I was wondering.
Right, they submitted the bid under Canton, Massachusetts. That's where they actually work out of. They were incorporated in New Jersey.
Yeah.
We put into the agreement, corporate address, New Jersey, mailing address, Canton, Massachusetts.
Yeah. Bob's office made that adjustment, and I can forward that on to you. So at this point, I'd like to now, I think we're in a position to send them the contracts for signature and the notice of award. I think we previously have awarded the contract to them.
Well, that was my question, have we awarded the contract?
I have to look back at my notes. I don't remember when we actually did it.
Do we do another?
Can make another motion as a just in case.
Do you have the dollar amount?
Yes. Because I brought that file.
It says here it was approved in our last meeting.
Yeah.
Oh, us? Okay.
Right.
Says, approved contract for 9/12/15, phase one, $249,836.30.
That's it.
Water main cleaning company out of Canton.
Yes.
There's unanimous.
Thank you, Mark.
So at this point, I'm
There's
sorry.
only three you guys here, that was unanimous.
Well, there's three of us.
So I'll
It's the
send
three
them.
most important, gentlemen.
Hey, wait.
I'll send them the notice of award, the contracts for signature. When they sign them and send them back, then we'll have them to basically get our end of it signed. And they'll submit their insurance and performance and payment bonds at that time as well. And then we can get going on a notice to proceed, submittals, and so on. So hopefully they can get construction going,
February.
it would say within hopefully 30 days.
Okay, so do you need another vote today, or?
No.
No.
You're all set?
it-
Okay,
because it was in-
that's the best kind of meeting. All right, good.
I have the same issue, I think. Reynolds Ridge, I noticed over here, I don't know who owns that sewer.
Reynolds Ridge, we do.
We do, okay.
Or no, is it a housing authority?
Yeah, that's,
Probably the housing.
that's
Houses
us.
are, yeah.
Ah, I'll bet we do though, right?
Probably.
One way or the other.
Yeah. Yep.
Well, the next step with all of this is there's probably some red lines from the 9, 12, and 15, and we'll look at the red lines from here. I'll work with Weston and Sampson to see what our next set of priorities are. And then that will be the next construction contract we want to go forward with.
Well, I'll go back to Reynolds Ridge, the housing authority, that's sort of a state issue too, isn't it?
That's a state project.
Not anymore.
Not
Not anymore?
They
Can't
don't-
go-
they don't
can't-
give us
can't go
anything
back?
anyway.
No,
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 they
no.
don't give us anything, not anymore. It's like over here, Augustana, you know, we still have to give them partial tax credit.
No.
And yet we're not getting reimbursed from the state, so. Reynolds Ridge too is that we have an agreement with them where instead of them paying us taxes, they pay us a certain percentage of things. And that's all that'll happen. If they have to pay to get these sewer lines cleaned out and straightened out, what's gonna happen is they're just gonna come back and ask us for a different agreement to cover that. So we should bring it up to them, but
Bob, in your report, and I'm just referring to Plumtree Heights there, where the condo is, do we have a amount of water that's being infiltrated in that, in the other report? because this is the dark heavy line, that's this one down here.
We have infiltration and inflow associated with every pipe segment on this
Okay.
map.
All right.
Kelly, we remember how much water was pouring out of that, Plumtree Heights.
I'll have to work with Bob to figure
Yeah, I
out what
think-
segment that
When they have a
is.
leak there, they go after it. 'Cause Kenny
But
Brook
we
was,
had surface water also
Yeah.
filling,
There was always surface water coming off the hill, but
yeah.
for issues there, they'll go right after it.
Okay.
There's this
Well,
one
it,
area
you know,
here
comes to the point there
where
that
it
if it
appears
is
that you could
a
not-
significant amount, let's say, we're gonna put a meter there, and then you're gonna have to pay us for the
Yeah, 'cause that seems to
filtration
carry
that's going into
a
the
lot of
system.
flow.
That particular
Add
segment,
up all the meters
yellow,
and see what the
right,
customers
so
are
you
using
access to that
versus, and then the difference.
To do
You
with
throw that at them,
CCTVs.
and
Yeah, then
and now
it'd be
they're
a cause of-
It was
motivated.
part of the
Yeah.
flow isolation, because we went downstream of that and upstream of that.
So there's nothing there that's gonna be
It's already
potentially a
accounted
big problem.
Right.
Do you have a lot of red lines there?
Yes.
Yeah, there are lots of units.
1960s.
All right, anything else, guys? All right, moving on, does that cover 1 and 2?
That covers 1 and 2.
All right, that's what I thought. All right, so, capital project
Yeah,
status? You have-
just briefly, we kind of hit on Chestnut and the Bergstrom well. We have a meeting with DPH on the 16th. We expect to get our 800 gallon per minute well, the safe yield for that well to be the number we were requesting.
Now, what about number 2? If we had a problem with number 2, you had to
Take care, guys.
rewire
Thank you.
the thing.
Thanks a lot.
Oh, okay, going back to the Maple wells.
Yeah.
We had the VFD installed for well number 2.
Right,
On that one, the VFD is inside of a cabinet, and the old drive had a keypad on the outside of the cabinet. So the controls were wired to that keypad, so you can do all of your, programming and whatnot. They installed a new drive. They didn't take into account the outside of the cabinet keypad. So rather than having us open the cabinet up where the electrical lines are to deal with the keypad right on the drive, I went ahead, told them, let's go ahead, get the keypad and get that installed. So I was hoping it all would have been completed by now, but I think it's gonna take another week or so, or maybe 2, for the keypad to come in and wire it up to it. So the good news is the drive got installed, they did test it, it worked, now we just
Okay.
got it. But we don't wanna operate that with having to open the cabinet
Right.
door up.
Yeah.
Once that's done, we'll put well 2 into the system, let it run 24 hours. Once that's done, we'll go ahead and then be able to look at wells 1A and 2A and get them TV'd and get them, rehabilitated. So we're still moving, but it's gonna be another, it looks like a couple of weeks.
okay. Kelly, you're off the hook.
Yeah, I just scratched it out.
All right,
Like I said, Bergstrom well, we're looking to get that 800 gallon a minute safe yield finalized with the health department. Pilot testing, again, as I had mentioned, we'll get that done in the spring. The 2019 water mains, we had a meeting today with our low bidder, Earth Movers Inc. Went over a bunch of parameters, what's required. I expect to get the signed contracts back from them in the next couple of days. Then I'll be able to get them over to Matt for signatures, notice to proceed. Probably the first step we're gonna do there is do a change order for a time delay for a winter shutdown. And we'll allow them to then piecemeal, if the weather allows, to get some work done.
okay.
My last item, the 2018 water mains, it looks like the final paving now is complete. So we're just kind of working out the details of their final payment request and final submittals to the health department of all the required paperwork and so on. And that's all I have.
All right, great.
Yeah, one other thing.
Yeah.
I did ask them, I know they're under the sewer allocation for DeMarco up there in Chestnut Street. Do we get a copy of the plans, the site plan?
Yes, and I did see Steve today, and I did mention to him what we discussed at the last meeting.
Yeah.
He's gonna work on getting easements drawn up to then basically get those sewer and water mains turned over to us.
So we can see just see what it is. I have no idea. Somebody asked me how many units are going there. I have no idea how many units are going there. Do you know how many units are going up on Chestnut Street?
11 units.
Yeah, but we should have a site plan to see it.
I have it.
Okay.
P and Z has it, he's been through the
All
town
right,
process.
let's get it here, yeah.
Yep.
That's the problem, when you prove something we don't see, that's all. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, Kelly, supervisor's report, anything leaking?
Actually, we're pretty tight right now, the system's tight. We had a leak across the street here at 8 School Street. We thought that it was on their side. They brought out their contractor, they dug it up. It appeared that when we had to put a new curb stop in there 2 years ago, there was a failure in one of the brass nipples. I took pictures of it if anybody wants to see it, but one of the nipples that was installed by Pembroke, that's where the leak was. That's why when we shut it down, you could still hear it running for a couple minutes because it was still coming back through. But the leak was right where the curb stop was. It wasn't on the line going up to the building. And it was what we touched, and we had a new curb stop put in. When that happened, we had to dig up the taps, shut the taps, and then make the repair. So School Street is all set. There's no more ice condition down there. 19 Topstone, there was an issue there with a service line within the house. That's been taken care of. And 8 Mountain Orchard, we had it was right about the time we had a couple of them cold nights, and I guess the house was vacant. And when it thawed out, when we got one of those 40-degree days, the water was pouring out the back porch. So those were the only 3 service issues we've had since we last talked, and everything seems to be tight. The stop meters, we're plugging along on that. They're gonna be reading in 2 weeks, and then we'll have an up-to-date list of meters that need to be done. But that's been going very well. Paul and Ian have been sending out appointments. We've been doing 5 a day. It's kind of slowed up a little, people aren't getting back to us. Once we do the next read, then we're gonna put another round of appointments out. Again, the system's pretty tight. I mean, we're having no problem making water, we're having no problem maintaining. Even with the railroad, that one line going across from the railroad, we still have an 8 and a 12 going out South Street, so we're still having no problem getting water up to Eureka. Before I get into the railroad crossing, I do have one employee out as of last Friday with short-term disability. I'm guessing 4 to 6 weeks he'll be out, and then he'll be back.
Why? What?
Carpal tunnel. Again, it's short-term, it's not workman's comp. Now to get into about the railroad crossing down here, right now we're looking at options. We've been in contact with a company, they're actually out of Seattle, but they have a place here in Watertown of putting in a structural liner. But what has to be done, they have to open up the pipe, get in there, camera it, clean it, and then see exactly where the break is to put the structural liner in. Plus the T that goes into Front Street has to be removed, because it doesn't meet the standards to have this structural liner go across an 8-inch opening where the T would go into Front Street. Today we met with J.J. Brennan. I've had dealings with them doing not the proper wording, but I call it bursting the pipe. It's done in a different way. There used to be a hydraulic way where they'd come in and they'd hammer the pipe and pull a new one behind it. Well, now there's another system out there that's a pneumatic system, or a hydraulic system, and what it does, it forces the main underneath the tracks instead of having to hammer it and burst the pipe. It's a whole different theory. They have good luck with it. That's option number 2, is to send the same size or maybe a couple inches bigger across. And that would consist of either HDPE piping, which is a very heavy plastic, or they seem to think that we could put ductile iron, just basically push it right where the existing pipe is. The next option is putting a sleeve in and then putting a bigger main or having a sleeve in there. The thing is, our hands are tied right now because we don't know what the railroad is going to allow us to do. Our next step is to sit down with MTA as well as J.J. Brennan and one of their subcontractors that actually do this work and find out what we can do. So we've got 2 companies involved, there's still another one that we're reaching out to. Whatever it is, let's face it, it's gonna be big money. So we're just trying to weigh out all of our options, which is the best for the future. Originally, it was talked that we wanted to put in a 16-inch water main up the middle of Greenwood Avenue. We're looking at any kind of option, whether it be a 16 or maybe we could put a 12 in there and just choke it down for that 100 feet. Because a 12, we think that as long as the railroad will allow it, this could be pushed right underneath the main. But there's stipulations with the railroad, how close we can get to them without shutting down the railroad. We can't be within the arms that come down, or then then they go in, they call it something, but it's where the train goes into like 2 miles an hour and blasts the whistle all the way through if we have to have the arms removed. But there's, like I say, that MTA has been very good working with us. I think because we've been very open with them, they've been very open with us, and they know that we're basically uncharted territory. So I'm hoping that within the next week, as Tom and I talked, we'll get a meeting together with them and know exactly where we stand and what's allowed to be done. And that's pretty much where we're at. I mean, it's
Really,
something
you
that's-
don't know really where the leak is then?
Well, we're within probably 40 feet of it, but I think it's because the ground is so dense there, we don't know. When the water stopped running, the train stopped doing a little,
No.
a little hop there, everything seemed to go back to normal. But no matter, there's a lot of planning in this. This isn't something we can just go and jump into.
I think when we camera the line, hopefully, we'll see where we have, the leak.
Yeah.
There's a T and to Front Street, and there's a bend, a T, and 2 couplings. So you got a couple extra joints all in a row. How old they are, 87?
Yeah, it was within the 80s. I guess when they upgraded Front Street, and I think there's an 8 or a 12 there, a ductile iron. That's when that was installed.
Could be one of those joints, could be a cracked around somewhere, so we don't know.
The other option is the old T that went into Front Street. We don't know what it was. I have no records of it. I know there's a 6-inch T in there, but there's no records whether that was cut out and the 8-inch was put in its place, or it was abandoned in place. There's a lot of ifs there. And I think, like Tom said, the cameraing will tell us a lot.
We know we've got it isolated, so now, now it's a matter of what are we gonna do in between those 2 shut valves. Like I said, the original thought we had was to do a lining project.
Right.
And at this point, I've got one contractor who's gotten back to us, and the number's just too big to say, this is what we're gonna do. So we're gonna look at a couple of different alternatives. And I think we have the time now, since it is middle of winter, our system's not hurting by having that pipe shut. I think if we go through it and at least get 2, 3 prices, if they're all in the same ballpark, then at least that's the number.
I like the options to, if we're gonna run a new water main down, now's the time rather than spending money on jacking another pipe under there or repairing that one, put the bigger pipe under the tracks down.
Well,
That's for the future.
If you're gonna do the bursting, you can really only go up about the one size.
Yeah.
So if we're gonna go that route, I would swap the 10 and I'd pull a 12 through there to maximize. If, for whatever reason, we've got to jack a new pipe through there, I'd probably recommend we put a 16 in. And then you tie it back into your
Right.
10s, and then in the future, whenever, you've got a 16
Right.
to tie
Yeah.
into. So
Yeah.
that would be the theory.
The problem, what we felt too, is with, if we pulled plastic behind that, even if it was a 12-inch plastic, we're still choked down to about 9 inches because the plastic is so thick.
Yeah.
I dealt with it a couple times when I was with the old company I was with, and the wall is very, very thick on this stuff. So we're actually, we need to just weigh it out.
Yeah.
And they
Well,
they suggested that ductile iron, this one contractor we had today, that they can actually push the ductile iron through behind this tool that actually pushes the pipe, the old pipe, it'll break it out of the way and pull this one right behind it.
Then they'd
But-
probably make up each joint and
Right.
push it, make up a joint, push it, and then,
Yeah.
when you finally get down to your 2 open pits, that's where you tie it in.
Amazing.
Yeah,
And it's totally changed from what I remember 30 years ago, because when he was explaining it to me today, compared to what we had done 30 years ago, the technology is totally different,
I
totally
know.
different.
yeah, there's a lot of trenchless,
Yeah.
ways to do things, so.
That's becoming the state of the art now, is trenchless.
I'm just curious, if you put a sleeve under it, do they caulk that pipe in, or it's just a sleeve that it's always open for?
I think it's both. The way it seems to be, it's both, where they cut both ends, the sleeve extends out like 2 feet for the transition to the old main to the sleeve. The sleeve could be like 10 feet long, the sleeve will go in, and then they put a membrane over it. It's a 3-day process. From the way, the first one is to cut, clean, and camera, the next day is to put this sleeve in there, and by the 3rd day it should be cured. and we can get back.
You're talking the liner.
The liner, I'm talking about an actual sleeve
I think
Oh,
what
for a future line.
typically I've seen, you put in a bigger sleeve.
Right.
And then there's an internal, like a roller system.
Right.
And that would support the pipe within the
Right.
middle of that.
Correct.
That's
Yeah.
what I'm aware of.
And that's
I've not
what takes-
ever done it, but
That way,
And that's
if
what
you
takes
had a
time.
leak again underneath the tracks,
you could pull it back through.
Back out, yeah.
Exactly.
But that's time consuming
Yeah, I
and money,
understand.
because I guess what they'll do is if they were gonna put a 12, they would probably have to jack a 20-inch pipe through, then they have to de-dirt it. They need to clear all that dirt out of there and then send a new line through. So it's not a very quick process.
And there also may be requirements on the depth of cover of
Yeah.
where they want you.
Yeah.
I know down in,
We talked about that.
I know down in Norwalk, well, Dino knows, did they want 10 feet of cover
Yeah,
on a
Wow.
36-inch sleeve, I thought?
I think you're right, I think it's 10.
I think it was 10 feet of cover, a 36-inch sleeve for a 12 or a 16-inch main. I don't know what you guys were looking at.
Well, didn't they jack one
Just put a
across
12 in.
84?
12.
Steiner?
Pardon me?
Didn't they jack one across the
As far
84?
as I know, I guess when they did Berkshire, they would have had to, right?
Yeah, and they had a guy on a dolly and they're breaking up a rock they hit. He went underneath there with a jackhammer. Yeah,
Little skinny guy, right?
right, no.
Yeah, we're getting that, yeah.
Well, if that's the case, I'm gonna start eating heavily then.
All right, yeah, so
We don't have to worry
whatever
about anybody
option,
fitting
let's
there.
look at all our options
Exactly.
and future use and,
Yep.
all right.
No, we're trying to look at the whole picture to
And as Kelly said, if the easiest option is to pull something through the existing pipe, even if we have a 12 and we go with a 16 to and from, the reduction of 100 feet of 12-inch is really not gonna make that
Does
big of a
nothing.
hydraulic difference. If we end up putting in a long run of 16 from Beach Street all the way back, and there's one little piece of, under the tracks of 12-inch, it's really not gonna
They
impact
only
your
reduce it
hydraulics.
at that point, then it gets bigger.
Yeah,
Like 3-inch fire hose with a 2.5-inch coupling.
exactly.
So you said Pembroke, the brass nipple failed when they put it in?
Yeah, yeah, and they did that about, I think it was about 2 years ago. I'll show you, and I know it was that because I found the blue tape where they taped it up. Because what happened there, Pete, there's a 2-inch line coming across, 2-inch curb stop. They come out of it to meet up, for some reason, they had to go under something. There was another 2-inch line there, so they came out of it, dropped it down on 290s, and then tied into the existing 2-inch. But there was another piece of pipe there that we don't know what was, so they had to work around it, which I think probably went back as far as when Anderson did that. I think he said about 30 years ago, he put that line in there. And that's who, Anderson's the one that came out to do it with Tommy Kane. And once they got down to it, I mean, it was pretty, it was noticeable. It was definitely something that was done 2 years ago. I was just surprised to see the brass come off the threads within 2 years. And of course, they were standing on their heads too.
They piped over the Teflon.
What's that?
They piped over the
It
Teflon.
was Teflon, it was the blue Teflon, the good stuff.
Yeah.
It's,
Huh, you gotta wrap that 4 times.
yeah.
That Topstone was Denise Gallagher, you know Denise Gallagher? It was her house. The girder broke, split in half, pushed the water line down, and snapped the sweat adapter. I went underneath there and I fixed it for her, and they donated the time for her. she got nothing.
Yeah,
They jacked it up and it's all set now, yeah.
that's good.
And that was found by the gas company. They were out there for another reason, heard water running, and called us.
Yeah.
So everybody works hand in hand with that stuff.
Okay, anything else? All right, thank you very much. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Those in favor?
Aye.
That carries. Thank you very much.